Hello everyone, in this video we will try to understand factoring binomials. So let's understand some basics. So let's say 12 equal to 4 times 3. This is multiplication. So what I have done to the 12 here, so I have rewritten 12 as a product of 4 and 3. So let me just write this. Rewritten as the product of 4 and 3. Okay, so I have rewritten as the product of 4 and 3, and the number is 12. So what I have done here is actually I factored this. Rewriting as the product of 4 and 3 is called factoring. So if you remember the definition, so I'm going to just write the definition of factoring. So factoring a quantity, in this case the number 12. So factoring a quantity is rewriting it as 2 or more quantities multiplied together. Now this is very important that let's look at it in another scenario. I can say 12 equals to I can say 7 plus 5. Now 7 and 5 are not the factors of 12, even though 7 plus 5 is equal to 12, because the definition of factoring is rewriting it as 2 or more quantities multiplied. This is very important, that you have to multiply numbers to get the number 12. Otherwise you can't call 4 and 3 as the factor of 12. So they must be multiplied. Okay, so that's the basics of factoring. Okay, so now let's look at a different number. So 4 and 3 are not the only factors of 12, because 12 can be rewritten as 6 times 2, and 6 and 2 are also factors of 12. Okay, so that's the basics. Remember, we are trying to do factoring binomials, so this is the basics. So let's go to our next topic. Okay, so since we have learned our basics, now we're gonna do factoring binomial. Before we do that, I want to show you one more thing. So let's say I have a rectangle, and I'm telling that the area of this rectangle is 12, and let's say the length is 3. Now what will be the width? Should be 4. So what can I say about this area? So I can say 12 equal to the length times the width, which is 4. So if you are using a rectangle, we can also see the factoring here as well. So when you are writing the area as the product of length, so that's your, let's say, the length, and this is the width. Okay, so that means these are the factors of 12. So I can also use a rectangle. Okay, so now let's look at a monomial. Okay, so instead of using just numbers, now we're going to use some variables. Let's see. So let's say this time the area is equal to 2x, and I'm telling you that the length is x. If the length is x, what should be the width? Has to be 2, right? So that means I can say that, okay, the area 2x should be equal to 2 times x. 2x is your area, this is your length, and that's your width. Also, I can say that because 2 and x are being multiplied, that means I can say that 2 and x are the factors of 2x. Okay, factoring is not only about the numbers, you can also have variables. So if the area is 2x, I can say that 2 and x are the factors of 2x. Okay, let's look at some more scenarios. Let's say I have an area and this is 5xy, and I'm telling you that this side is 5x. Okay, that means the length is 5x. If the length is 5x, what should be the width? Must be y, because area of 5xy should be equal to 5x, that's your length, times your width, which is y. Okay, so that means 5x and y are the factors. So 5x and y are the factors of 5xy. Okay, so that's how we can find the factors of a term or factors of a monomial. Okay, this is a monomial because this is just one term. Now let's look at the same rectangle again. So this time I'm going to say, okay, this is 5xy, but this time I'm going to say, okay, this is 5y. If this is 5y, what will be the width? This time it has to be x. Again, I can say, okay, the area is still the same, 5xy, but this time I'm going to say 5y times x. Okay, so it's still 5y times x is still 5xy, but that means this time your factors are 5y and x. Okay, instead of 5x and y, it is now 5y times x. Remember that when you multiply these factors, you should get 5xy, and that's the goal. Okay, it doesn't matter what are the numbers or what are the variables or how they are organized, as long as if you're getting 5xy when they're being multiplied, that means these are the correct factors. Okay, let's erase this. Okay, so now we understand how factors work for monomial, for a number. Now let's look at binomials. So let's draw a rectangle first. Okay, this rectangle has actually two sections. So I'm going to say this is 18x, and I'm going to say this is 30. I'm going to say, okay, this side is 6. All you have to do is figure out what will be the width for this one, the first one, and what will be the width for the second one. As you can guess that since the area is 18x, 6 must be multiplied with what? 3x, right? To get that 18x. This is 30 and your side length is 6. That means this must be 5. Okay. Now, what's your total area? So here I can see my total area is 18x plus 30. Now notice that this is a binomial because you have two terms, 18x and 30. Okay, Okay, so that's your area. So if this is your area, 18x plus 30, now tell me what are the length and the width. As you can see, this is your length from here to here, right? That's your length. So I'm going to do 6 times. What's your width? So be careful. The width is from actually from here to all the way there, right? So what's the total width here? You have two of them. You have 3x plus that 5. Okay, so now the 6 is your length, and what's your width? This whole thing, 3x plus 5 together, is your width. Not the 3x, or not only the 5, but 3x plus 5 is your width. So if we use the same definition for factoring, so what are the quantities multiplied here when we were talking about the area 18x plus 30? So you can see one is your 6 and another is your 3x plus 5. 6 and 3x plus 5. So I'm going to write this here using the definition of factoring, that since 6 and 3x plus 5 are multiplied to get 18x plus 30, that's why 6 and 3x plus 5 are the factors of 18x plus 30. Okay, so this is the important part to remember. So if we start from the beginning, we started factoring a number, and then we saw factoring a monomial. That means that it has variables. Then we saw with two variables, 5x, y, and we saw how the factors are being multiplied in that case. Now this is the first time we're seeing how factors work if you have a binomial. Now if you notice here, when you have 18x plus 30, which equal to 6 times 3x plus 5. So let me write this one more time. So we have 18x plus 30, and we said this must be equal to 6 3x plus 5, and we know 6 and 3x plus 5 are being multiplied. And also you notice that we did the distributive property. So here if we do the distributive property and if we do the multiplication, you'll see we will get 18x plus 30. So the quantities are multiplied and we are getting the area, which is 18x plus 3. Okay, so that's how we are rewriting. Okay, so that is in terms of rectangle. Let's say I don't have a rectangle, so we are just starting with 18x plus 3, and we want to factor this, but let's erase this first. So now my question is factor 18x plus 30. So I use the rectangle for our understanding. Now let's factor this one. So when we're factoring, what is the common term if we have 18x and 30? So the numbers are 18 and 30. So what are the common factors? So we can use 2. 2 is common. You can also do 6. Okay, so sometimes you'll find there are more than one common factor. So we're gonna use 6 here. You'll see why we're gonna use 6. So we're gonna do, for 18 we can do 6 times 3 times x, and for 30 we'll do 6 times 5. So that means 6 is our common factor. Okay, so if 6 is the common factor, what should I do with the 6? So let's circle them so you can see this clearly. 6 is our common factor, and if you notice from the rectangle, we know that 6 is your side length. So what is left here? So here you can see this 3x is left plus that 5. Okay, so that's how we can factor this one. So you're looking for common factor. As soon as you have the common factor, we can pull the 6 out and we see what is left. So you can see 3x plus 5 is left. Okay. Okay, so now let's look at another example. Let's say I'm going to factor 24x plus 40. Sometimes you may not see the common, if there are more than one common factor, you may not see the other common factors, and you can start with 2, but then you'll see you'll have to do more factoring later on. So for example, 24 and 40 are the numbers, and I'm going to start with 2. Let's say 2 is the common factor, so I'm going to do 2 times 12 times x, and I'm going to do 2 times 20, and I'm going to say, okay, 2 is the common factor, so let's do 2, and what's left? 12x plus 20. So I can say 2 and 12x plus 20 are the common factors of 24x plus 40. That's correct. But the problem is we are not done factoring, because look at the numbers now. What are the numbers here? You have 12 and 20. Do they have any common factor? You can see there, you can say 2, or we can say 4. But if you do 2 again, you'll see you'll have to do more factoring later on. So we will start with 4. So if I do, okay, I'm going to do 4 times 3 times x. I'm going to do 4 times 5. Now here you can see inside this parenthesis again, 4 is the common factor. So I'm going to pull that out. So you already had that 2, and there is a multiplication. So I'm going to put that 4. And then you can see this is 3x plus 5, because 2 times 4 will give you 8. So 3x plus 5. Okay, so that'll be your final answer. So you can see 24 and 40. Actually, right away, if you see that, okay, 2 is a common factor, 4 is also a common factor of 24 and 40, and 8 is also a common factor. If you see the 8 right away, you will not have to do all these steps. You can just start right away from 8, and you will see those 3x plus 5. Okay, but sometimes you may not see the 8, so that's okay if you start with 2 or 4, but you will just have to do one more step. So that's how we factor a binomial. Okay, I hope this video is helpful. Thank you for watching, guys. I'll see you later. Bye.